Do you have? Is this your first
podcast?
No, baby.
Oh no, I have another. Yeah, I have a little girl. She's 2 years old.
She's 2. Okay.
Yeah, she's gonna be.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what's going to be? So it'll be a 2.5 year age difference. So 2 girls. I have two girls.
Oh, you do?
Almost 3 years. Almost exactly 3 years between them. Yeah. I think looking at her credentials, I was sold as soon as I saw the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. But the truth is, Dr. Tanya Manikkham has so many other interests and focus that this will make for a very unique and interesting podcast as we dive deeper into the world of hormones, menopause, and also the effects it has on our mental health. So, welcome to episode 25 of Living Your Life with Ann Lang, the podcast brought to you by Extension Marketing. And for more information, of course, you can head to extensionmarketing.com. Definitely worth checking it out for a free consultation. Tanya, great to have you here. I should mention, I'm hoping you're able to sit still for around the hour. You're very pregnant.
7 months, yeah. Very pregnant.
This might be the first time we have to do an actual official pee break for you to be able to get up. Are you excited? This is your second.
It is, yeah. I have a 2.5-year-old at home, so it's a girl, and this is a girl too, so I was very excited.
That's not. I could ask you all about your hormones right now, but we'll stay off of that one for now. It was an interesting correlation because you actually work with Nutrichem, and we had Kent McLeod on a couple of months ago. He was actually one of the first podcasts I did. It's a nice place for you. I mean, it seems everyone is so passionate about what they do.
Yeah, we're a bunch of clinicians. We all work together. Everybody's extremely passionate of quality of life, improving life. And yeah, pharmacists, naturopathic doctors, nutritionists that all work together. It's an amazing combination.
You put the combination together right off the bat. And so this is where I want to start because I was trying to do some research and to understand the difference between what you call a naturopathic doctor. There are homeopaths. There are normal doctors, physicians. Can you explain to me the difference as to what the correlation or why it's so different between a regular doctor and a naturopath?
Yeah, so to get into naturopathic medical school, it's actually the same requisitions. So you need your undergraduate degree, you need your science, all that stuff. But then you go to a private college for naturopathic medicine. So in Canada right now, there's only 2, one in Toronto and one in BC. In the States, there's a couple more kind of thing. So, and it's a 4-year program. The main difference is the first 2 years are actually very similar to regular medical school. It's all science-based, biochemistry, all that stuff. But then it kind of veers off, and instead of, we do study pharmacology, but then we focus on nutrition, on supplements, that kind of stuff to treat people. The main difference is that residency for naturopathic doctors is optional, so you don't actually have to do your residency. You can just do your internship and start practicing, while medical doctors, they have to do at least a minimum of 2-year residency.
Okay, can I break down a little bit more? I mean, if you're going into your family physician's office, what's the difference between going into the family physician's office and going into your office?
Yeah, so the family doctor, right? So make sure that basically everything's good with you. We'll check to give you a physical. Naturopaths will do that as well. They'll check. It's more your blood sugar, make sure your heart's good and that kind of stuff, right? Usually when people see a naturopathic doctor, they'll have a complaint in mind, right? It's more about quality of life. They'll say, oh, my energy, my mood, or nothing's working. We'll spend a lot more. It's private medicine, so we're able to spend more time with the people as well. We're there to improve lives, not necessarily to save lives. That's how I describe it. Our medical system is amazing at saving lives, right? But unfortunately, medical system, your doctor doesn't have an hour to spend with you to ask you, well, how are you feeling? How's your mood? How's your energy? Well, in naturopath, we sit and we go through everything. I ask all about the diet. I ask about exercise. I ask about social, everything. And we really want to improve people's quality of life.
It's the quality. So it's not, and I know, having talked to Kent, this is not about prescribing medicine at the end of it, right? It's almost the opposite, is trying to find the root cause of what is happening so that you can improve that.
Exactly. And naturopathic doctors, we do have prescribing rights in Ontario and BC, so it goes by province against our regulation. But yeah, the difference is we really want to find the root cause, right? Because even naturally, somebody comes to me, let's say for depression, I can throw a herb at them, I can throw something, but I want to look more into it. I'm like, is your depression is it hormone related, right? Is it more psychological where you should actually be getting therapy, not taking something? Is it a vitamin deficiency like iron or magnesium deficiency? So we're more into we have the luxury and more time to kind of investigate more, if you ask me.
And I think, of course, with anyone who gets into medicine and is willing to put in those hours and that education, there's usually a passion or a story behind it. And so I'm assuming with you also, there's a reason why this profession chose you.
Yeah, actually. So my extended family, to be honest, they're all medical doctors. Cardiologists, nephrologists, pathologists, anesthesiologists, all you can think of. So honestly, I just grew up thinking I'm going to be a medical doctor too. It's just kind of what you do, right?
It's in the family business.
Exactly. But then my father actually got cancer when I was 13. So he got cancer, he had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and he went through all the treatments, the chemo, the radiation, and he beat the cancer, but his quality of life was horrible. He lost his eyesight, his skin was falling off, he had something called neuropathy, which is chronic pain in the legs and arms. He could hardly walk. It affected his heart. So the quality of life just wasn't there anymore. And there was a nurse, I think it was a general hospital, but a nurse told my mom, you should actually consider bringing your husband to go get acupuncture. So this was the first time our family was introduced to alternative medicine. So I remember one day, I was making him a coffee actually in the kitchen, and I just asked him, he had been going now for a couple of weeks to acupuncture, and I asked him, so Dad, how's the acupuncture going? It was so foreign to our family. And he's like, Tanya, for the first time in many years, I don't have pain. So for me, it hit me right away. And I was like, wow, I think I knew at that point, I'm like, that's the way I want to go. At this point, I didn't even know you could be a naturopathic doctor.
Okay, I mean, you said, you were 13 when he was sick. So are we talking 14,
at this point,
15,
I was more closer
point?
to 16, 17. Yeah,
so this had been a long battle for your father as well, and understanding how much pain he had been over the course of those years.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to hear him say the pain has diminished, it
was huge. Yeah, and it was unbelievable a bit for our family, because again, we come from a medical background, right? So then I didn't even know naturopathic.
Did people fight it within the family? Kind of going, what are you thinking? Kind of doing this?
My family were half East Indian, so they're actually really open to it. Just because back in India, naturopathic medicine and allopathic medicine, so conventional medicine, they just work together. So they were open to it for sure. Of course, allopathic medicine comes first, right? But at that point, he had been suffering for so long. So at this point, it's you do whatever you need to do to, try anything at that point.
So that was the sign for you as to if you were going to head into medicine and follow within the family tradition to go this route.
Absolutely, yeah.
What did you enjoy most in the learning process?
Probably just the thinking behind everything. Nothing's a Band-Aid. It's not just about, you have this, we prescribe this. You have this, you do the surgery. So just going more and thinking more and, trying to be more of an investigator, right? Looking at little things that normally you wouldn't think about, basically. Is it a chronic infection? Is it an autoimmune thing? Is it, it's just really, probably the investigative piece.
Okay, so we've got doctor/detective here. What are when people are walking into your office, can you anticipate what it is that they're going to be saying? I mean, can you read it off of people at this point? What is the most common thing people are coming in for?
Probably, to be honest, low energy, weight gain, hair loss. Yeah. So my practice is a lot of women, and they're usually, I'd say, age 35 to 55. And that's usually the main complaint. Yeah.
Okay. You've got every woman going, okay, energy, weight, and is sleep in there?
Sleep.
Yeah. And looking at the women you deal with, it's almost like you're dealing with one phase to another phase, right? Almost like, fertility and kind of dealing with what women are looking for in younger, and then menopause and kind of dealing with hormones later. For sure. And so let's deal on that, because this is where you like to focus on, and we're going to talk about the hormones. So bring us back down to med school. What exactly, I hear it all the time, hormones, but what are we talking about? What exactly is the hormone?
A hormone's a messenger in your body. Basically, it's a messenger going either from your brain to an organ, telling your organ, oh, you got to do this, or from an organ to another organ, or to an organ to your skin to say. So it's basically, hormones are messengers. And as we age, unfortunately, the hormones decline. right? Especially for us women, we lose half
They
of
just
them,
can't
yeah.
travel as fast, or they
They
just
actually
dying
stop
off.
producing them.
Okay.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. People are always, when we do a lot of hormone testing in my practice, so I get so many women that they're, in their 50s, they're menopausal. And then when we're looking at all their hormones, they're surprised that they have no estrogen and progesterone. And I explain to them, like, no, menopause means no more of these hormones. Like, they actually completely go away. And people are very surprised about that.
Yeah, I think some people are incredibly educated on it, and then others we just hear these words, menopause, and we don't exactly understand what's happening. At what point do our bodies really affected by hormones?
To be honest, most women, once we reach our 30s, our hormones start declining. So usually one of the first hormones that declines for a lot of women is progesterone. So progesterone helps us women stay calm, helps us deal with stress, and helps us with sleep. So yet women in the late 30s, early 40s, they start telling me, you know what, I'm waking up in the middle of the night, I just don't handle stress the way I used to, that kind of thing. And then usually after that, estrogen follows. And then estrogen gets low. That's when you get the women complain about hot flashes. But estrogen also keeps our bones hard, keeps our cholesterol down, helps with our memory. So the longer a woman has her hormones, the more she can wear off, dementia and memory issues and stuff like that.
Okay, is there anything that we can do for ourselves? I mean, you're listing all the things that are going to happen that we can do to fight this, or to battle it, or to hold it off as long as possible.
For sure, yeah. So that comes down to lifestyle. So preventive medicine for sure. Diet and exercise is huge, honestly. So if you can kind of follow more of like an anti-inflammatory diet, so there's certain foods that they cause something called inflammation in our body. And basically what it does is it pushes our immune system to go crazy. And when our immune system's going crazy, to be honest, our hormones go crazy. So if somebody has a high sugar, refined carb diet, to be honest, it's not the best for hormones for sure. Exercise will help boost your testosterone, which is another hormone that goes away, unfortunately, for us women too. So testosterone helps us with muscle mass, with sex drive, all that stuff, right? And weight, muscle mass, weight loss. So yeah, exercise and nutrition goes a long way. It's not going to stop you from losing your hormones. You're going to lose them. There's no doubt about that. But it can actually help you manage and the loss go a bit slower for sure.
Okay, so I'm looking at a spectrum right here of like 30 years. So I want to be able to take it and go back into little pockets. We've kind of hit like the general, but let's go down into the pockets. So let's talk about the initial clients that are coming in. And you were saying, in their mid to late 30s, low energy, not sleeping well, aren't dealing with stress.
Yeah.
What are the questions that you're asking? What are the things that you're going to be looking for? And take us through kind of this example A client.
So I'll ask them exactly their energy levels. I'll ask them, is there a time of day you have more energy? Do you have more energy in the morning, more at night? Some people get that boost in the evening. Well, then the hormone we're actually dealing with is more something called cortisol, which is your adrenal glands. Your adrenal glands are the glands in your body to help you deal with stress. So if they're out of whack, then your energy levels will vary throughout the day. I'll ask about the menstrual cycle, right? So the perfect menstrual cycle is 28 days. So I'll ask, do you have any signs before your period comes? To be honest, people talk about PMS like it's normal, but it's actually not normal. It's not supposed to be that way. Our mood's not supposed to change before a period. Our period's supposed to be, lasts about 5 days. It's not supposed to cause cramping, not supposed to cause anything like that, right? I know.
I'm sorry. What planet are you from?
Yeah, but
come on, you can't say
yeah, usually.
Why is it not supposed to be like that when 90% of women, I think, deal with some, right? Like cramping? Seriously? No cramping?
Yeah, cramping,
no moods? No cravings? Really?
That usually means an estrogen and progesterone imbalance. Yeah. So if a woman has too much estrogen, and the problem with estrogens too is that in our environment, especially in North America, in our environment, we have a lot of things called xenoestrogens, right? So plastics and stuff, and they actually mimic estrogen in our body. So we end up with technically more estrogen than we should, right? Even if half of it might be fake. But when you have an imbalance between your estrogen and progesterone, it'll cause fibroids, it'll cause clots when you have your period and that kind of stuff, which is going to cause cramping.
Okay, so if there's any women out there that's going to go, okay, how am I going to not have these things? Like, what are we doing then if we suffer from a lot of these issues?
I recommend women get your hormones tested. Start with that, because that's not something routinely done with your doctor. If you're going to your family doctor, it's not something that your doctor is going to be doing. Honestly, you really usually have to ask for it. The timing of when you're testing your hormones to you depends on your menstrual cycle. So ideally, you want to do it around day 21. That's when your progesterone is supposed to be at its highest. So, if you go ask your doctor to test your hormones, or go see a naturopath that does hormones a lot, right? And then see what that balance is. And then from there, depending on that gap, then there's so many things you can do. But that's the first step, is just test your hormones. If you suffer from PMS, if you suffer from fertility issues, if you,
get the hormones checked.
Get the hormone checked, yeah.
Is it an expense? I mean, looking at our medical system, I mean, what is the cost to this? And then you have to weigh it, right? I'm feeling like crap. Things aren't quite working.
Yeah.
What?
Hormone testing can be done in the blood or saliva. So usually saliva is very expensive. It is known to be the most accurate. That's not covered by OHIP. That's out of pocket, and it's a couple $100s. The women I see, I say, let's just test it in the blood. It's a good baseline, gives us a good idea of what's going on. If you do it through your doctor, that is covered by OHIP. Through us, it's private medicine, but it's about, depending on how many hormones you test, it's like $25 per hormones. I mean, it's nothing crazy,
What would be on that checklist? What would you be looking for?
Estrogen, progesterone. I look at the cortisol, which is the adrenal glands, and there's another hormone called DHEA that's can be imbalanced in people. So if DHEA is high, somebody might have acne, they might have cysts on their ovaries, they might have anxiety, that kind of stuff. I like to look at the thyroid a lot. So the thyroid's a gland in your neck, and if it doesn't work properly, people have weight gain, hair loss, low energy, that kind of stuff. But our medical system, when it comes to the thyroid, we actually test a hormone that your brain sends your thyroid to work, but we actually don't test the hormones coming out of the thyroid. It's not routinely done. So I like to investigate again more, and look into that.
So depending on what your patient is coming in with is the type of saying their thyroid might be completely out of whack. When you have someone, dealing with a hair loss, weight gain, and they're typically saying, I'm trying to do all the things right. I'm trying to exercise. I'm trying to eat correctly, and things, I cannot seem to get control of what's happening with my body.
Absolutely. I get people always coming in, their shirts are thyroid. They're like, I got this, it's my thyroid, for sure. But then we investigate, and it's actually more the adrenal glands. Your adrenals and your thyroid are completely linked. So if your adrenal glands are off, it's going to give you thyroid issues or thyroid symptoms without your thyroid actually being completely off. So it's all about investigating again. And some people, to be honest, genetically, they're just at risk of having thyroid issues. So there's something called Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disorder that attacks the thyroid. So meaning your immune system attacks your thyroid. It's often genetic, so usually it'll run in the family, but if their parents or somebody hasn't been tested, they won't even know it's Hashimoto's. Those people, it's a bit more complex because they have to do more steps. It's not just about, exercising and eating healthy. It's really about following something called an autoimmune protocol. So really lowering inflammation in them, taking certain supplements, that kind of stuff.
So would you say, if you have a family who has had weight issues, or it kind of goes from parent to child to grandchild, that could be something that actually is a genetic link?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. For sure. And to be honest, sometimes, I have the patients that are the healthiest you can imagine. They eat so well. They work out. They go to the Greco fitness gym. So they're working out these crazy intense, like 4 or 5 days a week, and they have a really hard time with their weight. So at that point, you just know there's a biochemical cause. But then we look at their biochemistry. Biochemistry means hormones, everything, and everything's fine. And they'll talk about, well, my mom was overweight, my grandmother, and stuff like that. So some people, yes, genetically, they are at risk of having weight issues.
Okay, what happens with that woman who you said is doing 4 to 5 days at Greco and, eating and cannot seem to do it? What has happened once you've been able to distinguish that there's a hormonal imbalance, or there's things that just aren't working correctly? Yeah. What is the result like?
It depends on the person,
So what are you creating for them? Like, what are you able to do then?
Yeah. The first step that I can do for a person like that is that, first of all, we can investigate a lot more than what the family doctor can, right? So that alone, usually people get relief. They're like, okay, I'm finally going to be looking for answers. And that alone is a huge deal for a lot of people. If we find what's going on, if it's something like insulin, which is a different hormone, then great, we can address it. But I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it happens that we actually don't find anything and we don't, understand it, unfortunately.
Sometimes it will be like that. What if you are able to find it? What happens?
Then we address it. So let's say somebody has high estrogen and low progesterone. Then I usually I have the conversation with the patient. I'm like, what are you comfortable with? What are you thinking? Do you want to try this naturally? Do you want me to prescribe you hormones? Because we can prescribe hormones, right? Depending on the age, take into factor the age of the woman, that kind of stuff, what other meds she's on. So I think the perfect example is for menopausal women is that the most commonly prescribed medication is the antidepressant and sleeping pill, right? So
and I think you say that with just such a distaste, right? I mean that.
Well, it doesn't address the root cause, right? It's a Band-Aid for me. Yeah.
So oftentimes with menopause, a normal kind of family doctor would be prescribing a sleeping pill
and an antidepressant. That's what they're told to do, though. Some doctors will prescribe hormones, but that's what they're told to do. So they're following what they're told to do or what, is taught to them. So, but I find that's a Band-Aid, right? I mean, you're not addressing the root cause. So for a woman like that, should she be on progesterone to help her with sleep, right? If she's having hot flashes, should she be on estrogen? So, but I have that conversation with the patient, so.
Okay, so why wouldn't they? Explain it, right? Yeah. Why don't you want those?
So there's fears around hormones. So some women have a lot of fear around hormones because there was this huge study called the Women's Health Initiative. And what they did is they tested thousands of women. They were giving them hormones. And the women that were taking estrogen ended up with heart disease, or a high number of them. And the ones that were taking the progesterone ended up with breast cancer. Now, they were given synthetic hormones, okay? So the estrogen actually was horse estrogen. So it was not human estrogen and progesterone. So now we use bioidentical hormones. They're plant-based, but they go in the lab. The lab plays with it and kind of changes it so they mimic the hormones in the body. But that study really scared people, and with good reasons.
How long ago was that done?
Oh God, I don't even remember the year, but it was over 10 years ago for sure. So that's huge, right? And so when that happened, it was like, okay, every woman, stop your hormones. That's it. Right? But with the bioidentical hormones, now they haven't had a study with the thousands of people they've done the Women's Health Initiative with. But there's studies with 500 people here, 800 people here, 1,000, and they're actually showing that there's not an increase right now with the breast cancer and stuff like that. So what I tell my women, so for as far as the breast cancer goes, right now with the bioidentical hormones, we don't see any evidence that they actually initiate cancer, okay, breast cancer. However, if you have a breast cancer in you, if you have something in you that's hormone sensitive, it's going to act as a fertilizer. So it will make it grow faster. So when I started women on hormones right away, it's, okay, when was your last mammogram? And if they haven't had one, I recommend, okay, well, we should do a mammogram before you start hormones or within the first year at least, just to make sure, right? Some women have something called the BRCA gene, meaning that, right, genetically they are at risk of breast cancer. So for those women, maybe, it's because of their high risk. It means something could happen at any time and stuff. A lot of those women will be like, you know what, I don't know if I should be doing the hormones. But again, it's a personal choice. And if a woman tells me she's BRCA positive, but she still wants hormones, I will prescribe it, Okay, well, yearly mammograms, that kind of stuff to watch it.
Now, within each of these patients, is it a different, are you making them different? Because I know that you have the lab to be able to do this. So does each one correlate with that individual, that they don't need, I mean, you're talking about some need the progesterone or the testosterone or the estrogen. Is it done so that you can see baseline as to what So how one woman's going to be different. We're all completely different.
Absolutely. And I'll get women come to me often. They're already on hormones and they were actually never tested. And then when we tested their hormones, their estrogen's through the roof. And these women are complaining of, breast tenderness, that kind of stuff. Or they'll have progesterone through the roof and these women are complaining of weight gain. So for sure. So what we do, the way I do it, and that's what I was learned through A4M, is you start at a low dose and you go up slow, basically. So I always start every woman that starts on hormones, I start them at the lowest dose possible. And then we actually retest them every 3 months and we monitor them. And then I adjust the dose of the hormones accordingly.
So now you've got a woman who's, we kind of dealt with like a 35, and then you've got like a 45-year-old woman, right? Mm-hmm. Who likely although I have some girlfriends who are still having babies, you know, out of the childbearing years, not quite, you know, still at least think that they're far off from menopause, and yet, you know, things just don't seem to be right, or low sex drive, or what would be happening then? You've got kind of, you know, teens running around the house, you're still full-time working, you're not sleeping well, your sex drive is low.
Yeah, so you go and you test your hormones and you find out where's the imbalance there, you know. Most likely, usually it's a progesterone that goes down first. One thing that we see with women is that, especially career women or women that have a lot of, like, they're always on the go. So we, like I mentioned before, we have your adrenal glands. Those are your glands that help you deal with stress, and they have something called cortisol. Cortisol helps you deal with stress. It's a good thing, right? If it's balanced.
It also hangs around your belly.
If you have too much. Yeah, if you have too much.
This podcast is brought to you by Extension Marketing. They're a new breed of marketing agency that acts as your virtual marketing department, designing and implementing cost-effective marketing strategies that will grow your business. I can speak to this personally, as I've been using the Extension Marketing team to help me launch and grow my business. Founder Pat Whalen has been a lifesaver for me, a genuine coach guiding me along the way into uncharted territory. Tell them you're a friend of the show and receive a free 1-hour consultation. Check them out at extensionmarketing.com.
But if you have too little, then you won't be able to get up in the morning. You'll have hair loss, all that stuff. So if your body...
How much is hair loss? Like, when you're talking hair loss, I mean, we're talking doing a shampoo in the shower and then you bring your... And
exactly. And people will be like, oh my God, my hair's thinning, you know, for sure. So if you're on the go and you have a career this woman and you have a lot of stress, your body's going to want to make more cortisol to deal with the stress. And it's actually going to steal your progesterone and your testosterone. So we'll test women's hormones and then we'll see they're low in progesterone or low in testosterone. Their cortisol might be high, might be low, depends on what's going on. But the main reason for their hormones being off is actually because their adrenal glands are just, they need more cortisol. So it's a big puzzle. That's what I'm saying. It's like a lot of investigation and stuff.
It is. If you have someone who is fearful or is still, resisting hormones, how much can be influenced by food and diet?
A lot, for sure, yeah. Following an anti-inflammatory diet, we know that dairy...
Like, what's with the inflammation? Because you had mentioned that. I want to ask you, like, how crucial is inflammation in seeing where all the issues are?
It's huge. Inflammation's been studied over and over again in medicine in general. So the more inflammation a person has, there's markers for inflammation. So the one that we monitor at Nutrichem, it's HSCRP. But it's been shown that the more inflammation a person has, the more risk they are of dementia, of memory loss. Like, there's so many things inflammation is geared towards. Every hormone patient that I see, I put them on the anti-inflammatory diet when I first see them, unless there's other testing that tells me they shouldn't. But, I tell them to do it every year. So we do a 3-week anti-inflammatory diet, and they do it on a yearly basis. My husband and I do it on a yearly basis.
Okay,
so,
list them up. Okay, what does an anti-inflammatory diet
You basically remove any foods known to cause inflammation in the body, and that's even healthy foods. So... dairy, eggs, gluten, obviously.
Okay, slow down. Okay. Yeah.
Dairy, eggs, red meat, gluten. So any grain that has gluten in there, it's like wheat, spelt, rye. No tomatoes, no peppers, no mushrooms, no melons, no watermelon, cantaloupe, honeydew melon, no strawberries, no bananas. I have like this handout, obviously, I give to my patients.
I am. and all of a sudden you had people going, okay, I am totally going to try this anti-inflammatory diet because it sounds like, okay, this makes so much sense. And then you just listed off, pretty much everything that they're eating. And then you go back to, well, really? I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, and it's not a forever thing. It's a 3-week
I get that it's 3 weeks. Okay, what would I be eating for those 3 weeks on an anti-inflammatory diet?
So in the morning, you can start yourself with a smoothie. You can use, let's say, rice milk or almond milk. Put like some hemp protein in there. Put some blueberries, pears, apples. And then for a snack, you might want, carrots, celery dipped in hummus. And then for lunch, a salad, and you add chicken or maybe a piece of salmon. And then for dinners, you can have your sweet potatoes with your steamed vegetables. I don't know, steamed broccoli, steamed cauliflower, and then a piece of fish or a piece of white meat.
Okay. You know what? Actually, that's really not that bad. I think I would pretty much eat exactly like that. other than that I would have liked a piece of steak or,
yeah,
pork chop or
I never tell my patients to do something I haven't done. I'm pretty good about that.
Yeah.
So the first time I ever did the diet, like I said, me and my husband do it on a yearly basis, but the first time I did it, I actually wrote down my menu. So I always give it to my patients, so it gives them ideas and stuff.
But like carrots and hummus, that's not a bad
fine,
snack.
Right? I know, I agree.
Like, yeah. And can they eat a lot of it? Like, is it
as much as they want? So it's not calorie restriction.
Okay, so that's a big thing. It's not calorie restricted.
No, it's inflammatory foods restriction.
Okay, so if people understand that they can snack and eat carrots and
you can have
hummus
nuts,
and
you can have almonds,
okay,
walnuts.
so that's
no peanuts,
big.
Pistachios, and cashews, but all the other nuts are fine. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, if you can eat as much of it, and so you're not hungry, it's just changing the foods. And how quickly will people feel a difference when they're on that?
So sometimes the first week they actually feel worse.
But
by the end of the second week, people get a boost of energy. They're like, oh, I feel like Superwoman, and then by 3 weeks you feel good. And especially if anybody has chronic pain, like arthritis and stuff, pain's inflammation, right? So it can really help them with that too. If somebody has digestive issues, if somebody has like mucus in the stools, that's usually inflammation. So
how can you tell if there's mucus in the stools?
It's slippery when you wipe. When you wipe, it's like you can actually see the mucus and it's super slippery.
Okay, so if it's okay. So I'm so sorry for those of you who maybe, but we're going to discuss poop for a second. Okay, so a healthy poo is
usually formed, right? Yeah. Usually you should be pooing the amount of big meals you have. So if you're having 3 big meals a day, to be honest, you should be pooping 2 or 3 times a day.
Okay.
Should be any straining, no undigested food in the stools, no blood or mucus. Should be a nice
and I always joke about it. It should be a clean wipe.
It should. No, it really should, actually, yeah.
Okay, and then what's happening if there's mucus? Like,
mucus for me is a sign of inflammation. So there's obviously inflammation in your bowels. So again, we would do the anti-inflammatory diet. Then I go a bigger step too. I'll get like probiotics, something to really help the lining of the intestines and stuff like that.
And could that be something else other than diet that you have the mucus?
Oh, for sure. It could be, if somebody has high cortisol. You talked about when somebody has high cortisol, they have the thing around their bellies, but they might have diarrhea. They might have a lot of digestive issues. What I tell my patients, I'm like, cortisol is your stress hormone. So if you think about our ancestors, stress was running away from a predator, right? So the last thing your body thinks it's doing when it's stressed is eating and just chilling out, right? It thinks it's running away. So all the blood goes to your limbs. It gets all away from your digestive system. There's something called digestive juices. Those are all the enzymes and stuff to help digest food. Those are not working when you're in a high stress situation because your body thinks you're running away from a predator. It can't tell the difference. Stress is stress to your body. So high cortisol can cause a lot of digestive issues.
And I know, having talked with Kent, who's with, kind of founded Nutrichem, so much, and I know his emphasis was so much of our health is based in our gut.
Absolutely.
And this is really, as I'm listening to you, you're coming from different angles and we're talking hormones, but it comes back to what's the initiation in the gut.
The gut is huge. The gut is, you make brain chemicals in your gut. The way you process hormones, it's been shown that it's called estradiol. But so the good bacteria in your gut, the more good bacteria in your gut, the better you're going to metabolize your hormones, meaning get rid of them in a right way kind of thing and have the good quality hormones instead of the bad.
Right. Although I'm learning that no matter what, I'm going to be losing the hormones.
Yes.
No matter what.
But even then, so there is one type of estrogen you actually still make in menopause.
Okay.
It's called estrone. There's 3 types of estrogen in the body. Estrone is, I call it the bad one. It's the one, of course, we still make after menopause, right? So when estrone is too high, it does make you more inflamed, can put you more at risk of having different types of like cervical cancer, all that stuff. There's estradiol, which is the most abundant estrogen during a menstrual cycle. It's really good for bones, really good for regulating your menstrual cycle and for hot flashes. And then there's estriol. When you're pregnant, estriol is the one that you have the most of. It's a different type of estrogen. So in menopause, you lose your estriol and your estradiol completely, but you still actually have your estrone.
The one that you don't like.
And even then, it's all about how you actually get rid of that one in your body. So it goes even a step further. So I call them highways. So your hormones have to exit your body, right? They send the message, you utilize them, and then they exit your body. And they can exit down different highways. So depending which highway decides to exit, then some of it is very well, okay, it's gone. And then other highways, it's like, can actually linger and cause more problems. So. Yeah.
Are you able to do things to be able to direct the traffic properly?
For sure, yeah. So if you want to know how hormones are leaving your body, that's actually tested in the urine. The one that's the test is called Dutch testing, is the one that most people will do. So it tests all your highways, Highway 2, Highway 4, Highway 16. And then you want your...
Not the 417 and the 401, no. I take it. Okay.
So ideally, if your hormones can exit the proper highway, there's a way to push it that way. So there's something called indole 3-carbonyl. So there's actually, they come from broccoli or cruciferous vegetable, and then been shown to actually push your hormones to exit your body with a better highway. Yeah.
Okay, I love really broccoli.
Cool. Yeah.
That's so lesson today: eat more broccoli. Would that be one of them? Okay, for some of you, and you've kind of hit on so many of the different facets of where they're affecting us. You've talked a lot about women, but we've got men listening who are interested to be able to help their women, but there also are men. What are the issues that they're dealing with?
Testosterone. Yeah. Okay. So testosterone is the big issue with men. That and cortisol too, though. Often, so testosterone, low testosterone in men will not only, because men think testosterone, okay, muscle building, sex drive, but actually their mood is really affected with testosterone for men. So if you have a man that, is depressed, never had depression his entire life, and suddenly, he's middle-aged and he's starting to deal with depression, definitely worth investigating testosterone for sure to see his levels. The main common cause of low testosterone in men is actually something called sleep apnea, meaning they're waking up in the middle of the night and they don't even know they're doing this, right? Like they don't fully wake up, but they stop breathing and they wake up. So if somebody has low testosterone, then they'd want to get investigated for that. Testosterone keeps their blood pressure down, their cholesterol down, it helps regulate their blood sugar. It's huge for men. Unfortunately, naturopathic doctors, we don't have prescribing rights for testosterone because it is a controlled substance. So for that, they have to see a medical doctor or a nurse practitioner that prescribes it.
Okay. I want to talk about the little blue pill.
Okay.
Is that okay? Because you do have these men that are leading healthy, active lifestyles and, might not be fighting off depression or testosterone and maybe, very much wanting to be involved, and yet they run with the issue. Like, what is happening with the lack of a sex drive, or wanting to have, having a sex drive and not being able to perform? Is that the right way of saying it?
Yeah, for sure.
Is the wanting to, but not being able to.
Yeah. So then it can be hormones, can be testosterone, can be cortisol. It could be more of a circulation thing too, though.
Circulation.
Yeah. Well, you need circulation.
Right. It's the blood circulation.
Exactly.
Right? Okay, yes. Okay. Yes, the blood pumping.
Yeah.
But where would that be? Where would that be faulty? Like how does one increase circulation?
Well, then it's all about testing, right? Is it because their cholesterol is too high? Do they have something called atherosclerosis? That kind of stuff.
What?
Atherosclerosis, like you get the hardening of your arteries.
Okay.
And you get plaque buildups and stuff. So then it's like they'll look at their blood pressure and stuff like that. Yeah. So that would be done through their family doctor.
Okay. So a couple of issues is one thing, but if you're starting to feel this, how long do you have people that are dealing with these symptoms before they actually reach out and get someone to talk to or someone to help?
Yeah. So with women, it's pretty early because women talk to each other so much, right? So that's the bonus with that. Men often, I know the men that I see in my practice, it's because their wives kind of sent them. Because I think men, I don't know if they're just not encouraged to talk about it as much. I'm not sure. My practice, again, is mostly women. So it's the wives like, okay, you need to go see Dr. Tanya. Go, kind of thing. But so it's hard to say. Yeah.
But they are seeing similar results with their different hormones, right?
Absolutely.
And doing a replacement or doing something where it's stimulating.
And it's then even so if somebody comes in, so a guy comes in he's like, I'm sure I have low testosterone. We test his testosterone and it is low, but we test his cortisol and that's extremely low. Again, if he's under a lot of stress, if he has, a busy job, that kind of stuff, big family life, then his body's going to want to make more cortisol and it's going to steal that testosterone to make it. So sure, this guy can take testosterone, but he's still not addressing the root cause, which is actually his cortisol. So it's worth looking at more hormones for men too. And surprisingly, even with the thyroid, like Glenn and Unek was telling you about, there's a lot of men actually that suffer from thyroid issue as well. So, and I find sometimes that gets kind of
lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, exactly. So some men will focus so much on the testosterone that they forget that
because they wouldn't necessarily be dealing with weight issues.
Not necessarily, right? Yeah. But, you know, they might have the super low energy. You'll see their cholesterol starting to rise, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And I do know, I mean, I don't have the medical background, but there is that difference between the good cholesterol and the bad cholesterol.
Yeah.
And how much do patients understand that? Or do they just hear the word cholesterol and they get scared?
Yeah, for sure. So what I do, anytime all my patients that know me, when we do blood work, I sit with them and I explain every single thing, what it means. But yeah, when you test cholesterol, it's actually, you have a lot of cholesterols you're testing, and you actually have a lot of bad ones. It's not just one bad and then one good, right? But when you do test cholesterol, the lab does a ratio good versus bad. And the research shows, if you can keep this number below 3.5, you're at reduced risk of heart disease secondary to cholesterol. A lot of things cause heart disease. Mm-hmm. So absolutely. So patients will come in and be like, oh, you know, my cholesterol, and my doctor told me my cholesterol is high. But I'm like, yeah, but, you know, look at your ratio. It's not too bad. And you know what? This bad cholesterol is actually the worst. And that one's okay for you. So, you know, no need to panic.
Not need to panic. The bad one is being outweighed by the rest of them. But it's something that I think people need to educate themselves on, because I've had so many people like, I'm not going to have the eggs because I have high cholesterol. And I'm like, there's a lot of different science behind that.
And we're so focused on cholesterol, and people always tell me, I don't understand, you know, I don't eat, you know, meat. I don't eat, you know, a lot of red meat and that kind of stuff. And I tell them, you know what, carbs will increase your cholesterol, and people don't realize that. You know, if you eat a lot of sugar and you're not spending that energy, your body's going to store it as fat, right? So it increases your cholesterol. So
and I don't want to get too much on the diet with you, because I know it's more of the medical, but I just had a guest on, I mean, really my last guest, really talking about sugar. And kind of it's how cruel it can be to people, and we don't know it. We don't realize that that's the biggest battle that we're facing.
Oh, for sure. It's in everything, first of all, things we don't even realize. People think they're eating healthy, and really it's just full of sugar. It's inflammatory. If you have bugs in you,
right?
Exactly. If you have bugs in you, it's just going to feed them. It's just,
What do you mean if you have bugs in you?
So if you have, you know, any type of chronic bacteria, yeast in you, that kind of stuff, they live off sugar, right? So
you call them bugs?
I call them bugs. It's easier than,
Okay. That's a different way of looking at it. Yeah. And you definitely want to get rid of those, the bad ones, right?
Yeah. You at least don't want to feed them, right? So,
no. A lot of where your focus is, and having read a lot of the work that you've done, a lot of it for you comes back to mental health.
Yeah.
And so we haven't really hit on that. And I want to be able to kind of correlate with what's happening. And as we're seeing so many more people, first off, be more outspoken about it, so we're talking more about it. But how much of an influence are we talking when we're talking hormones and mental health?
Yeah, it's absolutely, it's huge. Yeah. So my undergraduate, I first did psychology, so I was really into mental health and that kind of stuff. But yeah, so like a low thyroid can cause depression in somebody. High cortisol will cause anxiety, panic attacks. High DHEA, another hormone, will cause panic attacks in people. The progesterone to estrogen ratio, if your estrogen is too high, progesterone is too low, that's going to cause a lot of PMS issues, so the mood issues before your period. In menopause, estrogen, once it's at zero, some women, they get depressed. They go through depression in menopause. Progesterone helps us stay calm, deal with stress. So a lot of women will have anxiety when the progesterone kind of goes away. So they're very much linked.
So, and not having ever dealt with it before. So what happens when you have a woman who is typically happy and easygoing, and then all of a sudden goes through this menopause and then finds herself depressed? I mean, at what point do they realize I'm not quite myself? What are the levels to understanding really what depression is?
Yeah, it's like women will come in and they'll say, okay, I'm not myself. People have noticed, and I have no reason to be feeling this way. You know, I have a great job I love, everything's going well, yet I'm feeling this way. And that's a big red flag, right? It's like, okay, it's most likely biochemical as opposed to social cause or psychological cause and that kind of stuff.
So you would be then saying to
do
this
testing.
woman, okay.
We do testing, yeah. So if somebody's coming to me specifically, so for, let's say they're coming in because they have depression, right? So I'll take their case and I'll ask them a lot of like hormone related questions about their period, their sleep, that kind of stuff. And then I'll recommend testing accordingly. Sometimes I'll be like, you know what, it really looks hormonal. Let's just test your hormones. But sometimes we'll go even beyond that. I'll recommend doing other testing, like testing the health of their gut, testing to see certain genetic tests, because genetically some people can be prone to anxiety and depression. So.
Okay, and you mentioned anxiety attack, panic attacks. That must be really scary for people who haven't experienced it before or were never really an anxious person. How is that triggering? Like, what is happening when someone's having one of these attacks?
They feel like they're having a heart attack, right? So they get shortness of breath. Their heart starts beating like crazy. One thing that goes through menopause, and a lot of women don't realize that, they'll tell me, you know, they're waking up in the middle of the night and their heart is pounding, or they wake up in the morning, their heart is pounding, and they're like, what's going on? And for me, that's a big sign of perimenopause and menopause, and women don't realize that a lot of women go through this during that time, but it feels like you're having a heart attack.
Okay, I'm dreading this
menopause.
How does, I mean, that's really kind of terrifying for a woman to go to sleep realizing their body is shifting, the balance of hormones is shifting, and that there's likelihood they could be waking up in the morning with like this pounding and like anxiety or heart palpitation. Like, is it like a heart palpitation?
Yeah, I feel like women describe it as their heart pounding, like it's going to get out of their chest, basically. Yeah. I know. But if you know what to expect, then at least, and there's stuff you can do, right? Kind of thing.
So if you are of the mindset as it is occurring, that this is a natural physical response of my body. And is it about a calming? Can people calm themselves through it if they have an understanding that at that current moment, it's the body, it's not the mind. The mind's not doing this to you. It's almost like it's a physical reaction.
Exactly, and it passes, right? So usually women, if they don't know it's part of, you know, menopause for a lot of women, once I tell them that, they're so relieved, right? At this point, most women have gone to their doctors. They've done like all these heart tests and stuff like that, and they've been told, oh, it's normal. Everything's normal too. So they're just like, what's going on with me? What's going on? So yeah, but if you know what to expect during menopause, I think then when you get there, you'll be able to better handle it for sure.
There are women that are experiencing this, and I think maybe it's because I'm now getting into that age group where some girlfriends are starting the early onset of it, whereas I've seen others kind of fight it off, and you hardly even notice that they've gone through it at all. Is there a reason for the earlier onset of it? For some people?
Usually it's genetics, to be honest. So usually we'll ask, how old was your mom when she went through menopause? But I'll see people, they're like, well, my mom was in her 50s and I'm 42, and, you know, they're done. They're in menopause, in early menopause. So it's kind of unpredictable most of the time. Yeah.
It's unpredictable. So you can look genetically at what...
Yeah, you can kind of ask your mom. What is the most likelihood
that when you ask mom, like, when did you go through it, can you pretty much base it if you've had similar...
Most people will be around the same, yeah.
And how often is it heard of, like, what would the latest age be of entering menopause?
It's hard to say, but I mean, I have, 58-year-olds, 60-year-olds that are not in menopause yet.
That are still menstruating.
I think
is that good? Like, is that a good thing?
It is actually a good thing.
Really?
The longer you can have your hormones, the better. When your hormones go down, what we don't notice is that we're prone to osteoporosis, right? So our bones start decaying, vaginal dryness, and then vaginal dryness leads to vaginal atrophy, where unfortunately the vulva, the vagina actually it really atrophies, meaning it doesn't look like a vagina anymore. And then you get prone to infection. And then our hormones, they keep our pelvis, or the muscle in our pelvis, they actually keep them strong. So what you'll see is that the sooner you lose your hormones, and if you don't replace, then the pelvis actually loses that tone, and then you get it's called prolapse. So the uterus falls and the bladder falls, and then you hear these women getting meshes, right, to keep everything up. So the longer you have your hormone, and then memory is huge. Yeah. So estrogen is super important for our memory. So the longer you have estrogen, the better, because then you're kind of postponing.
Of the good estrogens that you were saying. That was something I'm keeping from it. So actually, the longer that you were able, I mean, everyone talks about, okay, when I'm done with these menstrual cycles, that really, if if the longer that they're there, the longer you know that you're keeping.
Yeah, the better. The longer you have your hormones, the better for sure.
And is there a way? I mean,
the
I know you mentioned
too,
you mentioned vaginal dryness. You remember are there ways to be able to kind of stimulate or to keep? You're trying to kind of catch and keep and try to keep as many things working as possible.
Yeah, so for vaginal dryness, we actually give vaginal estrogen. So we give vaginal estradiol. Some people give estradiol. So we don't give the bad estrogen, right? Just the 2 good ones. And it does an amazing job. The cool thing about the vaginal estradiol is that even people that have breast cancer or are at risk of breast cancer and are scared of the whole hormone thing, vaginally it stays local. So you're good. Yeah.
It's really just focused on that area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there are things, I mean, I think there are so many people that are suffering.
And they don't know. Absolutely.
That they're suffering or they're just saying, I guess this is natural, right? This is what it's supposed to happen. I'm supposed to dry up. I'm supposed to
and that's what they get told.
Feel this way.
Yeah.
And you kind of just give into it.
Yeah. So what I tell my patients is, okay, so our ancestors, they used to live to the age of 55? So whatever. They go through menopause. The average age is around 50, right? So they're living 5 years without hormones. No big deal. But now we're living 90s, right? 80s, 90s. We're working to the age of 65, 70. So here we are working, 15 years, 20 years without hormones. Yet we're expected to perform the same way we did when we were, early 30s, or we're working along younger women, like in their young 30s. I mean, they have all their memory, they're good, they're go, right? But we're expected to perform the same way, but without hormones. I don't think it's fair.
No.
Yeah.
Do that next time in a job interview.
That's funny, yeah.
I mean, there's so much information from start to finish. Okay, so someone's listening to this and something may be triggered in them, One of these things was like, hey, this is me and this is, I want to start the process. How long of a process is it then for the person making a decision right now, saying, I've been affected by this, I've done my diet and my exercise, and this might be my next thing to look into. What's the time frame?
Yeah, so to be honest, it depends on the woman, but that's actually something that some women will get frustrated with because, like you mentioned before, like a dose of, like, let's say they do decide to go on bioidentical hormones, one woman will react super well to super small dose right away, so we got it, or another woman where you just got to increase, right? So some women, if they require more hormones to reach those optimal levels, it can be frustrating because it can take, we test every 3 months, so it can take, like almost a year before everything's perfect. So it can be a long process. Other women, they just really react to hormones super well. So as soon as we started the low dose, we retest them and they're great. They're feeling levels. Great.
So it is, once again, is individual.
It's individualized. But again, for me, I will look at their diet and I look at other aspects. So usually they'll start feeling good within the first 3 months, but.
What has been, as I know as a physician, it's hard to be able to talk about it, but what has been for you the most gratifying? Like seeing a patient come in a certain condition and then, I think for you when you're talking about preventative and you're talking about health and not, the saving a life, the prevention.
The prevention, the quality of life. It's about the quality of life. Yeah. Oh yeah, when women come back and they're like, I feel amazing, they're like, thank you so much. I'm like, I didn't do anything, honestly. Like this could have been done a long time for you. It's really just, you did all the work and I just gave you the avenue to do it, the stuff. So, but it's really cool to see women feel more, again, empowered again, or when women tell me, I'm starting to feel like my old self. I love that, they feel empowered, they feel strong. And
because they miss their old selves.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so you've had people sitting in that chair just crying, like, I just want to feel like me.
I thought I was going crazy, like all these kinds of things. And, like, no, it was just your hormones the entire time.
How do you have that discussion when a spouse or partner may be seeing the depression, maybe seeing the change in personality, maybe seeing the change in physical, not attributes, but like physical difficulties, like things just aren't working the same way. How hard is it to have that conversation and to understand that the mental health aspect could easily be usually in reverse, that it's something that's happening with the body, that you get the discussion started within homes?
Yeah, for sure. That's a good question. So, because that's something my patients will tell me. They'll be like, my husband doesn't understand, or, my partner doesn't understand why I'm feeling this way. And they feel relief, especially when we do all the testing. They're like, I'm going to go back to my husband. I'm going to show them I have zero testosterone. So no wonder I don't want to have sex, right? So
it's not that I don't love you. I just really don't. Yeah.
It's not you. It's the body. It's my biochemistry.
But it's happening in homes, right? It's happening in households where there are issues, and then it creates arguments and animosity. And then the animosity turns into, it's like a domino effect, right?
Especially for women in their 50s and stuff, you see a lot of divorce rates and stuff like that, because the people don't understand the changes in the body. It makes you irritable. It makes you, right? If you're not sleeping, of course you're going to be more irritable. If you have no testosterone, of course you're not going to want to have sexual relations, and it really affects if you have all this weight gain, then you're not going to feel, maybe you won't feel as empowered in your body, or you're not going to, recognize yourself. So you're not going to feel as comfortable to have, sexual relations with your husband and stuff, it's not going to be as much into it. And it affects women.
It is a massive domino effect. And there is help. There isn't a way of understanding things very differently. And the first thing to do, especially in this bracket, is to be able to look at the hormones and understand things. Tanya right now is currently holding her belly. I think it's probably been pressing on her bladder 7 months, and kind of doing this and talking. So I'm going to let you go pee. And we're going to wrap that up. It's been really quite fascinating. I'd like people to have an opportunity as well to be able to follow up on this. And so it was great to talk to Kent, and I know there's so much work that's being done at Nutrichem, but what's the best way? How long is this process going to take to make a call, to look at the financial aspect of it, and to kind of get the process started?
So I work at both locations at Nutrichem. So we have 2 locations, one in the East End, one in the West End. Usually people will book an initial visit. We'll talk about what's going on. We'll do testing. Usually it takes a week to 2 weeks to get the test results. And then we start the game plan from there. Yeah. I'm obviously going on maternity leave in October to March, but all the clinicians at Nutrichem are very well knowledgeable. They're extremely knowledgeable in hormones. So,
That's the starting point.
That's the starting point.
Nutrichem.ca.com. Nutrichem.com. If you're looking for more information, and definitely kind of share this podcast with friends, or any of, this is book club. This is book club material, everybody, or bridge club material, and to be able to share this information. And of course, as I'm learning it too, is with these podcasts, if you can kind of subscribe or like or comment, it's really going to help share this message of what is being shared and what is being learned on your Living Your Life with Leanne Lang podcast. Tanya, thank you so much. Best of luck with the arrival of your newest daughter.
Thank you.
It was an absolute pleasure, and I've definitely taken a ton of notes looking ahead to take home to mom and to my girlfriends. I appreciate it. And there you have it. That is a wrap on episode 25.